May I first start requesting to Mr. Anil Kumar, Chairman, to kindly have the welcome address.
Yeah, thanks, Sanjeev, and good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome. The lady, happy to see Sonali around, lady and gentlemen, to this forum. On behalf of the Chennai branch, the Executive Committee, again, we warmly welcome all of you to this session and hope all of you are doing well despite of the upheaval on our life due to pandemic. And when we're talking about pandemic, the seafarers who keep the world maritime supply chain moving, they are faced with unprecedented hardships as well. And the various organizations around the world, IMO, Seafarers Organization, the ship owners, ship managers, they've all got together trying to make it easy for the seafarers as we speak to conduct their activities. So the seafarers has been recognized as a key worker, and there has been air connectivity at major seaports and hubs, and IMO has recognized these aspects as well. So the upcoming Seafarers Day, 2021, 25th June, the seafarer. The theme has been selected around the seafarer this time. Uh, so, uh, let's recognize all the hardships and effort the seafarers are putting together to keep the world economy propelling. So we have a very apt topics today, a very interesting digitalization and decarbonizations, and both these are two key elements of maritime disruption as we go through. Digitalization, maritime industry, we are far behind, I would say, comparing to other industries like aviations and automobile industry, catching up on digitalization elements and journey towards the fourth industrial revolutions. Which will also help the shipping industry to optimize its operations and also the journey towards decarbonizations. And decarbonization is very key and subject, and particularly as we speak now, next week we have got MEPC 76, which is happening at IMO, virtual meetings where they're going to discuss on or formulate the draft amendments on MARPOL annexes, including EXIs and CII as well. So decarbonization is a challenge to meet IMO's greenhouse gas emission target 2050. What is the viable fuel? How long we can continue to use the fossil fuel? What's the transition fuel likely to be? Is that LNG as a fuel? And what could be the zero carbon fuel for the future, whether it is electrofuel, hydrogen or ammonia, so biofuel. So we have got various options. So the maritime industry, as we speak, the topics around the discussion today, both digitalization and decarbonization, we don't have any precedents. So the industry as a whole is working together. The ship owners, the ship managers, the ship operators, shipyards, the equipment machinery manufacturers, classification societies, the flag administration, they're all working together to see how we address these two key disruption challenges we are faced with, both digitalization and decarbonization. And we have a very distinguished speaker today, Kaushik Seal, and he will take us through and enlighten us all elements of these aspects. Again, a warm welcome, and thank you for joining us on this, our continuous effort to reach out to you to conduct the technical meet through a virtual format since we can't meet physically. So to take the proceedings further, I would request Muthu, are you going to introduce the speaker?
Mr. Ramesh, I think. Mr. Ramesh.
Ramesh, yeah, sorry. Ramesh, sorry. Ramesh, may I invite you to introduce the speaker? Yeah.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce a very eminent speaker and also a very special friend of mine who also sailed with me, for whom I have seen as a great athlete in his younger days. He was always in the forefront of every race. So now in the marine profession also, he finds himself in the forefront, transforming the marine fraternity from the very old days of decarbonizing diesel engine piston to decarbonizing the shipping industry itself in the modern era of digital age. Currently, he is working as the market development manager for Southeast Asia and Pacific, looking after the sales and commercial business of the fleet performance management unit at Stormgeo, Singapore. Actually, he has done many hats, including stints with the big three in shipping, namely Lloyd's, DNV, and ABS. He has worked on a similar role in digital solutions and innovation ecospace at DNVGL prior to this current position. He has been a ship surveyor, lead auditor, and global lead tutor with Lloyd's Register. He has been a country manager, India with ABS quality evaluations. He has also been a vice president technical with Aquarius Services and associate of Anglo Eastern Ship Management. He's been a quality manager with ARI for simulations. He's sailed as the chief engineer with Great Eastern Swimming Company. So his philosophy is actually very motivating and possibly the need of the moment for the young mariners who are bogged down with the complexities of modern day shipping. He keeps life very simple with a quote, enjoy what you do and do what you enjoy. So the topic for today is digital transformation, trends and decarbonization in shipping. Welcome, Kaushik. The stage is all yours. Please enlighten us with your insights. Please take over the stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, we, of course, go back a long way, not only to Marine College as batchmates, but we are also Southern mates, right? And neighbors in our, rooms. So almost roommates, right? For 4 years. So we can't forget that bond so easily. And we also sail together, right? And so it's a great association. Nice to be part of this forum. Thanks, Anil, whom, of course, we know each other for a very long time. And thanks, Sanjeev, for arranging this and having me over. Right, so let me quickly sort of jump into the topic. I mean, if you go by the length and breadth of the two topics that we have at hand, digitalization and decarbonization, I mean, to do justice to these two topics from a shipping perspective, we would need probably a few months, right, to set the ball rolling itself, right? So, but in the time available, I would like to give an overview and a flavor of our experience with the topic and what we have been doing in the past few years. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes,
we can see.
Okay, wonderful. Right. So the digital transformation journey, as I think Anil or Sanjeev said, we have come a long way in shipping, but the road traveled is much less than the road to be traveled. So in short, we have a long way to go in the shipping industry if you compare ourselves to, say, the aviation or even, say, oil and gas and offshore drilling, where digital transformation actually has kicked in a lot earlier. But shipping is like catching on, and I'm here to tell you my story from our experience of working in exactly this space in the last 8-9 years, right? So first, I would just like to give you an overview of what we do at Stormgeo, because we are in both these spaces of digital transformation and in decarbonization, right? So if you look at our portfolio in shipping, we have about 70% of our revenue comes from shipping. And in that, if you look at the pie diagram, we have fleet performance management, which is about 15%. We have route advisory service, which is 44%. Planning and navigation, 24%. and route optimization, 15. Now, this pie essentially covers all the aspects of transportation of cargo from point A to point B via ships through our oceans. Right? We just had our World Oceans Day yesterday, so we can relate to a lot of oceanic information which was exchanged over the net over the last few days, right? And so we are at that cutting edge of technology where we are in a position to influence the technology enablers in shipping. Okay, so what we know from a survey is that 83% of board directors globally, they feel that digital technology it will lead to substantial or complete industry transformation. So that's a huge number of people who will tend to agree that digital technology and digital transformation is finally here to stay. Let's look at some of the industries which went through this disruption. Right? We have the example of the music industry. We all know that now everything is streaming. We got Apple Music, we got Spotify. Everything is on our fingertips. We can download anything that we want. So we have actually come a long way from the audio cassette of our analog days, right? And then we have moved across to a streaming service over the last 20 years. Yeah. So how does that happen? I mean, although there is a lot of piracy in terms of the music in the music industry, but we still have revenues and profitability. So we have a digital ambition, we have a business goal where we can easily drive this business transformation. So if we learn from examples, our leaders must navigate through these series.
Can we request all to mute?
Okay. Right. The shipping today, the problem, which is also the opportunity in many ways, is that we operate in silos. So when we operate in silos, it doesn't give us a holistic view of what's happening to the vessel or to the chartering people, the asset managers, the owners. To get a holistic view, we have to come out of our silo approach. So that's the key. And how do we create that value chain very, very quickly? That's the key objective. So we have noticed, and when I say we here, you would notice that my source over here is D&D, because we have been working in digital solution space, in the eco space, within the industry for the last few years. And most of my research and work in this area has been done through my stay at D&D. Right? So I just thought that it's best that we use that example. So the three global trends which are transforming our markets are, of course, the unpredictability, and we can't overemphasize that during the current pandemic. We have seen that. Right? We also have stricter regulations. Yeah, we just heard that the largest chunk of the iceberg from Antarctica broke loose. So when you have events like that happening, we have to make sure that we have stricter regulations in place. And of course, the third enabler is the rapid advances in technology. So we must be able to capture two important aspects. And of course, we use terminology like impellers and inhibitors because we as marine engineers can't do away with all these terminology, and they have to be part and parcel of our daily work. So we have something called digital potential, which are the impellers which drive the digital transformation forward. And then, of course, we have to deal with challenges like the digital friction, yeah, which have been shown here, right? So obviously, the new revenue channels, the optimization and enabling digital products and services is something which has a lot of potential, and these are the things which will impel transformation in the future. But then we also have new regulations coming in. We have skills of our workforce where we have to continuously learn, maybe first unlearn, and then learn these new skill sets. Never easy, right? So we are from that generation where we have seen those analog cassettes, and now we also have Spotify accounts where we are downloading and transforming music, right? So we have to learn new skills. We have a culture of change. We have to look at the cost allocation. And of course, last but not the least, we have a less than adequate learning from our failures. Yeah, and this is taught that the opposite of success is failure. So, which is obviously not true. And we have to come out of that thinking. And failures is actually part of the success story. Every success story, failure is a stepping stone, and we have to incorporate that in our day-to-day lives. So moving on, this is a few practical examples of what digital transformation journey we did at work. We went through training, we created incubation zones, we had an innovation framework. The key was joint industry ventures. We had the next generation summits, which was actually led by youngsters. Now that's the key, right? I mean, the old has to give way to the new, and this is where we have to bring in the next gen, right? And we were completely bamboozled and surprised by the level of ideas and the thought mastery which the youngsters have these days. And we really have to harness that to the fullest if we have to achieve any of our digital transformation stories to be successful. Then, of course, KPIs on the digital revenue, cultural and leadership, and of course, service development with customers and partners. Very, very important. So do we need a digital strategy? Yes, of course. Because in our experience, the success is technology-enabled transformation, and it has to come from the top, yeah, including any cross-discipline with our ecosystem. So if you look at the figure on the left, it's value potential versus capability requirements, and our digital transformation journey has to be, which is right, choosing the middle path, which is an offset between value potential and capability requirements, keeping in mind the cost and the amount of revenue which you can generate out of your requirements. So that's the cornerstone of a digital transformation journey. And if you apply it for shipping, then that's the figure on the right. So at the center of it, we have the shipping enterprise, and then we have all the key elements which are used to run seamlessly this environment and the ecosystem. So at the foundation, we need technology, we need a strategy, we need analytics, we need cloud, we need security, and I'll talk a bit on that a little later. But we also need organizational capabilities, yeah? Skills, culture, and operating model. Right? So once we have that, then we have a suitable ecosystem in which the shipping company can then operate. So do we also need a data platform? And what do you mean by a data platform? Yeah. So idea is to have one large connected system. So on the left over here, we have the vessels connected by any cloud service provider. Over here, we have shown the example of Arundo because there are large players in our cloud platform, which is DNV's Veracity. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's a digital acceleration platform which has data containers, which takes in all the data from the various sources and then allows us to visualize all the data and helps optimize fleet performance management, leading to OPEX reduction, which is the key. Right? So another aspect, we have shown this through a mind map. Right? So I'll leave you to have a look at the mind map. In the middle is the shipping company data assets. And if you go around it, I'll just keep you a couple of minutes and give you a couple of minutes to go through this. Right. So if you look at all the vessel performances, personal performance, HSEQ, vetting, technical, customer-centric, and OPEX. So once we have a full round view of what is happening, it's only then we can improve because we know where we are and we know where to go. So that's the first step really, to have one connected digital system. That's another view of how we get value out of the data. So in the heart of it, we have our Veracity platform, which is our main accelerator platform, which has all kinds of data, confidential, publicly shared, and which is cyber secure, which helps data quality and data sharing and data visualization at the highest level. So whether it's sensor data, whether it's as simple as the Noon reports, the BDNs, class, port state control, OEMs, all kinds of data which comes in, including tons and tons of sensor data, which can be sucked into the system. So yeah, somebody did some study, Harvard Business Review, so it's a trusted source. Bad data costs $3 trillion per year in the US dollars. So that's what we have to do. We have to treat data as an asset. Yeah. So need for good quality data and the risks of bad quality data. This cannot be but overemphasized, right? And having worked in this domain in data science for the last 6-7 years, I can tell you that the quality of data is really the key, because 70% to 80% of the data which we get currently in 2021 is still not up to the mark. So that's where we are. So we need to very quickly have a system which is completely interconnected and, of course, cyber secure. We know what havoc ransomware can create. We saw it on a couple of shipping companies. We saw it recently in an oil pipeline in the US. So very quickly, things can get messy, and a lot of money will then go in restoring all this, right? So we have at risk operational, financial, and our reputation at stake. Yeah. So some of the new technologies, what we have created in our maritime digitalization playbook, as we call it here in these parts. Yeah, so we have used digital platforms, advanced analytics, IoT, of course, from various sensors. We are trying to introduce robotic process automation and machine learning. Yeah, it's finding its way. And we have used blockchain, AI, virtual reality, and of course, autonomous ships and drones. So that's, of course, some miles away, but nonetheless, it's technology which is already available, and we can use this to our advantage. Right? We have already looked at additive manufacturing, which is 3D printing. We have seen what that can disrupt really, and more use of this technology will find its way into maritime technology, and we should have spare parts management using 3D printing in a big way. DNV already has standards for this, by the way. So in short, our data value chain, which we want to create, is data ingestion, streaming of high quality, so that we are able to do the data quality assessment, the data cleansing. So data purification is a big task, and then we have to harmonize this data with all the other interested stakeholders, and then of course store it and make sure that it's cyber secure. So that's essentially the data management part is a cost, and the value which you derive out of it is condition-based maintenance, analytics, and your safety and barrier management, which essentially leads to operational efficiency of your shipping firm. Right? So one example, a quick example I would like to share is the machinery plant maintenance system, which we know is at a cost to us. So how do we use digital disruptors to make sure that an onboard survey is successful, right? So we have digital class right in the center where the data feed is coming in, and then it's used to create a report which helps in our condition monitoring. Right? So at the bottom, we have something from our production system. It's called the Nauticus production system, and of course, automatic identification systems from the various external sources. One example which I'd like to show you very quickly, a step-by-step approach of how to transform data into solutions. So this is one example of a world map, and I'll just guide you through. We have a world map which then we focus on Southeast Asia and Australia, and we look at the AIS signals from the vessels which have approached Australia from various directions in, say, the last year. And then we overlay ship specification, vessel types and age, so that we can use filters to have this record in front of our fingertips. And then we have port ships, we can introduce machine learning algorithms and create analytics which will help us track a particular ship route with the whole idea of emission modeling. So this was an example where we had to track total CO2 emissions inbound towards Australia. So we used that data and we used this approach to track this over the last few years. So I will end the digital transformation section by giving you this information on how we create value from data, and how do we quality assess the data for sensor and time series data systems, and the framework on which the report and the recommendations are based. So you can go into these. These are freely available from the DNV site. So moving on, Decarbonization options, really. Anil talked about what's coming in through the GHG reduction program of IMO in the MEPC. And we know that if we do logistics and digitalization, if we use hydrodynamics, and if we use the technology and machinery well, we can move towards 100% GHG reduction. But of course, to achieve that, we must fill in the last cog in the wheel, which are fuel and the energy sources. So we have to move to alternative fuels. There's no other choice here if we are to be reducing carbon, carbon footprint of the planet. Right? And we have an ambitious plan. By 2050, we have to reduce by 50% of the total GHG emissions, keeping 2008 as the base year. We all know this, right? Yeah. And we also have to reduce it by 70%, the carbon intensity, right? Which is, of course, transport work, your CO2 emissions per transport per nautical mile. What is the intensity? So that's by 70%. Not an easy task. Right? So how do we do this? So this is just a pathway which I'd like to show. The green line is showing you from the left 2008 as the base year, and we have to come down by 50% by 2050. And by 2030, we have to be down, the intensity has to be reduced by 40%. Right, so this is no mean task, and if we take business as usual, then we have this dark blue line, yeah, and that's the emission gap, which we really need to be bothered about. Otherwise, you can forget having polar ice caps. We'll just use it as plain navigation in a few years to come. So here I would like to show you why carbon neutral fuels have to fill in this gap. So over here, the dotted line on the top is the baseline if we are to continue our usual carbon emissions. But if we have to use the pathway of 50% reduction in our GHG, which is the green pathway, then we have to do a few things. So for example, the 4 enablers which we talked about. So we have to use better logistics. We have to use the orange zone, which is energy efficient use of technology. And we have to reduce speed in shipping. And then the balance 30-40% has to be the fuel, has to be use of alternate fuels, really. And we have done a lot of research in this, and we are quite at the forefront of bridging this technology. And if you look at the 2 pathways which are shown on the right, one is the LNG or diesel pathway, which is indicated by the light blue arrow, and the other is the LPG or the dark blue pathway of alternate fuels. So the LNG or diesel will have bio-LNG, hydrogen, synthetic LNG, biodiesel, and synthetic diesel. And the LPG, we hope, will use ammonia as fuel. Right? So that's essentially what we had to share in terms of the topic. Right? So I will now leave you with these key takeaways. Yeah, we don't have to really break the bank to go digital. We of course need a C-suite. It's crucial to change. We have to start the journey, however small. We have to take small steps. We have to develop both in-house technology and digital competence. So if you don't have it in-house, just look for a collaboration, right? And then being fuel flexible and bridging technologies is the key. Yeah. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude. I'm sorry if I've exceeded the time limit, yeah, but I just thought that to do justice to the topics, I had to share what I had to share. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kaushik. It was a really enlightening presentation. Thank you very much for the same. We'll now leave the session open for the Q&A, question answer session, which may I request Mr. Muthuswamy, please, to kindly take the questions, please. Those who want could kindly post the questions on the chat board, please, and Mr. Muthuswamy would take up the questions and just speak to the speaker. Yeah, Mr. Muthuswamy.
Thank you, Sanjeev. It was an excellent presentation. Needs of the hour. Now the digital transformation is everywhere, including even the safety, firefighting. Many things are happening in the ships. A superintendent can sit in his cabins. He can monitor the performance of the engines continuously nowadays. The technology is there. So that is what I see there. So there are a couple of questions are here. Just give me a second. First is from myself only. How far we are in shipping industry progress in digital transformation when we compare with the air cargo industries? The closest we can think of air cargo. How far we progress compared to that?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that question, Mr. Muthuswamy. Yeah. So, as I said, shipping is fast catching up. Our learning curve is very steep, and shipping in an orthodox way, we have been very we have been very fragmented over the years. So it is taking time to connect to one another and to connect to the stakeholders and to technology like providers, because we have been traditionally very secretive of what we do, although we need not be. So that's where we have lacked over the years. So if you want me to put a figure or a percentage, probably about 50 to 60%. So we are 50 to 60% of the other digitally transformed industries, right? Although our learning curve is steeper than theirs. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I hope that roughly answers your question.
Yes, thank you. The next is from one Mr. Rakesh Kohli. How autonomous ships?
Oh, that's my batchmate.
Come again?
Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead. Sorry.
How autonomous?
I couldn't help but. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, how autonomous ships will overcome the personal analysis of smell or sound-based troubleshooting? This is from one Mr. Rakesh Kohli.
Right. Yeah. So Rakesh is a good friend of my batchmate. So we always sort of have to acknowledge that fact, right, in forums like these. So that's a very good question, Rakesh. And so I mean, we have like technology to like do that. I mean, we have the rovers on Mars, right, which are picking up signals and collecting samples and all that, right? So with the look and feel, but we do understand that shipping is a bit like different, and the rovers on Mars, they don't have other spacecrafts hovering around, right? But in ships, we have other ships hanging around, right? So that is going to be a challenge. And the smell and sound, as you ask, it is a very important point. And that is the key challenge which has prevented autonomous shipping to come in a big way. You need to have people on board, right, to finally look at the look and the feel, right? So you need to have, that's what the answer is. So when you come to ocean-going vessels, well, we are still far away for autonomous ships, right? But for short sea shipping and for near coastal voyages, we can like look at having dedicated corridors and a vessel traffic management system to do that. And we have autonomous ships like doing that already. Right, sir.
Okay, I
Next
hope
question.
it's answer to Rakesh's question. And the next is one, Mr. Mohan Tyagarajan. What is a digital twin and how it is utilized?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. A digital twin is something, say, if a vessel or an asset, you create a digital model out of it and make sure you have the same systems. You can simulate the same systems digitally, right? It's like an advanced version of a simulator, which we have now seen. So, but it's in its way, it is very similar to the ship in terms of its engine, in terms of its hull profile and all that, so that you can introduce faults into that digital twin and see how it behaves in like similar atmospheres, right, and similar ecosystems, right? There is, of course, a difference from the actual stuff, but nonetheless, certain failures can be predicted, and they have known to be working. I mean, we have worked with digital twins, and we have a good success rate there. So we wouldn't say that it's all science fiction and rocket science as of now. It is working.
I hope it answers this question. Then Mr. Ramachandra Radhakrishnan, you talk about very much related to data science, and in this case, what mariners need to study? Minimum Python software, also the collection of data and decision making. Who will do?
I don't agree with this at all. Our experience and our knowledge and skills as marine engineers, we completely underestimate ourselves. I mean, firstly, to answer your query, Mr. Ramachandran, we don't have to learn like Python, right, or any other such language. We have to make sure we work with people who know that language, right? And our domain expertise is we still tell them how to clean a bilge filter, which Python cannot do, right? So, I mean, that's where we have to bridge technology and skill and digitalization. And no amount of, digitalization and autonomous shipping or whatever, finally, the work has to be done through motor skills. So that's where marine engineers fit in, and we can provide domain expertise to our team in this journey of digital transformation and data science. Although learning never ends, that's our lifeblood. It's good to go through programs of data science. I myself, going through a program on data science, and it's always good to learn.
Okay, the next one from Madam Samari Banerjee is very curious to know how far we travel in bridging the gap with respect to the digital shipping to that of developing a new competency for our existing workforce, the new skill set required.
Right, very good question. Very, very good question and very pertinent. And this is, in my opinion, an area which really needs to improve quickly. And I mean, traditionally, we have not hired people who are digitally sort of savvy, who have the correct data science knowledge. We have now looked at that as a gap in the competence, and hence it's included in the curriculum of our pre-C training. So I guess in the next 5-6 years, this is going to be something which will be developed. But certainly it requires a competency and reskilling of our existing workforce. And we certainly lack in this area. New skill sets are required, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is on the second topic, decarbonization in shipping.
Right.
From Janathanan, Mr. Janathanan, the alternative fuel, how far they will suit the marine industry? That's a very good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question, very pertinent, and well, a lot of technology work is you know, in this like direction. I myself worked in an LPG ammonia gas carrier in 1989. I was the gas engineer on board, and ammonia being what it is, with a short-term exposure limit of I don't know, maybe 20 ppm or even less. I was wondering how the hell can this be used, you know, in our day-to-day lives without like proper extreme care and safety like considerations. Yeah, but now, 20 years like down the line, I see that ammonia is making a very strong case to be an alternate fuel. So I guess like technology will bridge this gap, and we will have alternate fuels, because we are to look at, as I shared in my presentation, if we are to look at decarbonization and the goal of GHG IMO, you know, MEPC, then using 30 to 40% of these fuels will have to make way. So, well, there's no other choice. Let's put it like that.
In this, I want to ask you something. There's something they talk about carbon capturing. There's a technologies there which use the normal HFO fuel, capture the carbon, liquidify, and then reuse again without doing all this.
Right. So carbon capture like technology is, sir, that will take another, you know, like presentation in itself. That's huge like technology. And it's good that you asked. I can share something. Now we are working on a project which is going to transport CO2. And of course, for confidentiality reasons, I cannot share much, which will transport liquid CO2 from various parts of the world where ammonia is being produced, because CO2 is a byproduct of ammonia plants. And we use that into, that CO2 is being used for enhanced oil recovery. It's going to be used for enhanced oil recovery for the various aging oil fields. So that's using carbon capture, utilization and storage technology, right? So we can keep that for another day.
Okay. Next is Mr. Manohar Vijay Kumar. What measure has been implemented so far in our industry to meet the 40% in 2030? Did we cross the 20% limit currently?
Very good question. You know, we are talking of getting good quality data in, Mr. Manoran. So we are first setting that right in the digital space. So unless we have the measurements correct, we don't know whether we are at 20% or 30% or 40%, right? So with the EU MRV and the IMO data capturing scheme, the regulators are trying to get the data capturing and onboard collection tools, I mean, like correct in the first place, right? So we have shown you our journey. You have seen what measures, some of the key measures, right? Moving across from fossil fuels is one activity. Moving into a hybrid space, moving into electric powered assets. These are the things which like people are working on, and additive manufacturing, usage of 3D printed spares is one area. So these are some of the measures which already have been used, which are cutting down our emissions in our industry.
Okay, the next one is Mr. Ramakrishnan. He says, to my understanding, the carbon footprint for e-charge batteries is really higher when comparing with the fuel or petrol or diesel engines. Kindly correct me if the statement is wrong.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And maybe I don't have the full answer to this. But what I know for sure is we are shifting the problem here. I mean, if you look at also motor vehicle, which is then we have moved away from a normal, say, petrol or diesel engine to, say, electric vehicle, then we have removed the pollution from the roads, but we have moved the problem elsewhere. And although what I had heard that the e-charging facilities, that technology has improved by leaps and bounds, and the battery technology has also improved by leaps and bounds, right? So the fuel cell technology has also improved. So that in itself has led to a lower carbon footprint for the e-charging than what it was even a year ago. So that's something which is being addressed. So hopefully somebody will have to have a look at it, but I don't have the exact figures to deal with here.
I hope you have enough time for another 2-3 questions, or do you?
All right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
As the seafarers today,
Please go ahead.
This is from Captain Trevor Ashok. As is.
Oh, okay. So Trevor, I must tell you that we are from the same school, huh? Now, and I'm from our football team. Okay. So he was our captain of our football team. Huh? So now we go back.
Even football team also he was a captain. As if the seafarers today has donned many hats: navigator, engineer, account, HR, you name it, they are there. We say jack of all trades and then master of none. Now with the digital transformation and expansion, the seafarer would need additional skill sets or skills training to handle the digital transformation. Do you see some additional courses, training springing up in the nautical college for the young seafarers to handle? I think you must have.
Yes. So, yeah. This I've answered 100%. And the quicker the better. I think people are working on the curriculum. I mean, I am on a couple of committees, technical committees already sharing the taxonomy and the specific learning objectives and all that for these special skill sets. Yeah, so this is very quickly about to come in. It's already included in pre-C training. I don't know, Sanjeev, just correct me if I'm wrong. We already have this.
Yeah, it is
operated.
It's coming in. IMU and DG Shipping both are working on it. The committees are formed, and it should be coming the next academic year. I think the last week only the IMU had completed the nautical side, and they are brought into the curriculum, which will come from the next academic year.
Right. Yeah. So Trevor, I'm sure, we will have you as a faculty soon.
The next question from our special guest, Mr. Veeradra Jain from Bombay.
Okay.
Both the digitization and the decarbonization are quite obviously going to be extremely disruptive for our industry in the years ahead. In which area do you think the industry needs to transform itself the most to comply with this new normal?
So, I mean, in which areas do you think, our marine industry? Is that what the question is? Is that what you're asking?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether it is in terms of learning or whether it's in terms of technology, these are all changes which need to happen in our industry, right? So which
right
be most difficult to achieve and where we need to focus most right now.
Right. Yeah. So, traditionally, shipping, good question, Vijay. Traditionally, shipping has focused much on hands-on and on a proficiency-based skill set, which means that, you should be able to, with something, achieve a competency with your hands and body parts and all that. So we have to move away from that competency-based proficiency in order to have, digitalization. Decarbonization is an outcome of this, naturally, right? So the enablers are going to be technology like IoT, machine learning algorithms, and blockchain technology, which will really streamline the logistics and help us achieve this goal quickly. Yeah. So we have to be very, very disruptive. we are still not there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that addresses.
Okay, so the next.
That's another one of my batchmate.
The next one from Captain
Yeah,
Sagi.
please go ahead.
Captain Sagi, the question on digital text in shipping: can the crew and the shore management relieve the voyage fast forward with all its challenges and possible solution before the voyage, so that the actual voyage became easy?
Yes. So Captain Sagi has been one of my mentors, and I have huge respect for his knowledge. And thanks for the question, sir. And yes, we exactly have this technology wherein we can do predictive voyage analysis. And in Storm Geo, we have this technology, and we can predict a few things which can happen, say on the weather front and also on the technological front for the vessel. We can not pinpoint a breakdown, but certainly lead towards in that direction through data points. Yeah, we can do that. So the answer is yes. The short answer is yes.
Yeah, he had one more question from same Captain Sagi. Can we treat NH3 and hydrogen as a chemical storage battery, which saves the energy efficient, which can be used later on ships?
Yes, we can, and that's a very good question. This is going to come in. This technology is going to come in for sure, and this maybe will be the way we think in the future. Thanks, Captain Sagi, for sharing this. So there you go. You see, he's already on a great learning path. Right? Lucky to have him here, really.
I think that much was the questions for you, sir. Thank you very much. It was a nice session, and a lot of questions are here. Very good questions. Thank you very much. Sanjeev can take over.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kaushik. Yes, I think we kept the session short, but we wanted more time on the question answers. That's the great learning which we have. Thank you for your time. And may I now request Mr. Suresh Shenoy, the treasurer, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, all. First of all, let me thank Mr. Kaushik Seal for his excellent presentation and enlightening us in a new topic, which is going to be the future of the maritime. Also, next, let me thank our chairman, Mr. Anil Kumar, for the inaugural address, and Mr. Sanjeev Vakil, secretary, for organizing this event, and also on his platform, HMT. And also the co-host who has hosted is Mr. Kirtan, who is the man behind the scene. We have not seen him, but he is the one who is responsible for the successful presentation, where we can see everything, we can hear everything in this pandemic year. We don't feel like we are missing anything. I also like to thank all our members and the members from the other region, especially Dr. K.A. Simon, our ex-president, and Mr. Virendra Jain, chairman of the Mumbai team, and all others from the other region also. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks. Probably, generally, okay, in online meetings, we don't interact, socializing, we don't do, because there's no snacks or dinner. But then if you want, we can have 5 minutes of socializing. We have lots of senior dons of shipping here, right from Mr. Chidambaram, Dr. Simon. I saw from Mumbai, I think Captain Basin and Captain Sagi. I think today's session has been, I think we have many of them, not only from India, but internationally. So thanks. I think it has been certainly a great session, Mr. Kaushik, and thanks to each of you who have been here, sparing your time. Thank you very much. And yes, the session will not close right